Well, hello again, everybody. I know I was just on yesterday, but something happened today, and I wanted to talk about it. You know, we're a pretty divided country. I mean, politically, we are about as far apart, the two parties, as it's possible to get. And the weird thing is, we're not just divided politically. We're not just divided by party affiliation. Party affiliation is actually strongly associated with where you live. You live in a big city, you're probably a Democrat. You live out in the rural areas, or actually anywhere from the suburbs out to the rural areas, well, there's a very good chance you're a Republican. So basically, we live with other Republicans, we play with other Republicans, we work with other Democrats, we play with other Democrats. We kind of have not only a political separation between us, but a geographical separation. We're kind of surrounded by like-minded people. And we don't make it much better in social media places like Twitter or Facebook, where we sort of congregate around people who believe what we believe. But there is something that I would think would kind of unite us all, that I would think would sort of be something that all of us could get together on either side of the political aisle and agree about. And that is something called civil asset forfeiture. It's a new term. See, there it is up there, civil asset forfeiture. Today, the Attorney General of the United States, Jeff Sessions, an unreconstructed drug warrior, if there ever was one, has decided that he was going to bring back the civil asset forfeiture program that was canceled under the Obama administration. So we're back to civil asset forfeiture. Now, this is something that people on the left and right should be able to agree on, which is, if you haven't been convicted of a crime, the government shouldn't be able to take your shit. But we are bringing it back. Now remember, this is civil asset forfeiture. You don't have to be a criminal. Don't have to be convicted of a crime. The government just decides that you look a little too suspicious, which is to say black, and they get to take your money. So let's take a look a little bit at this. And I hate to do this. I hate to do a bunch of reading on this, but I think I'm going to. And I'm going to do it because I have the text of Jeff Sessions' speech here, his defense of civil asset forfeiture. And I wanted to go ahead and just take little bits of that and take a look at it and read it, because he said some interesting things. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I do want to cover just a couple of things that are, in my view, interesting. So, he first starts off his speech by thanking a number of interesting groups. And, wow, they just screwed me in this Jeff Sessions speech. I'm looking at the Washington Post thing, and it's not allowing me to look at the page. I had it all set up, and now it's saying, oh, hey, you have an ad blocker on, so we can't let you look at it. So these guys, while I'm live, have fucking screwed me right here on live YouTube. So we're going to try to do this again. I paused ad blocker. Let me see if I can read it now. Well, good. It's starting to come up. So here we go. So excuse that that just jumped in from the Washington Post page whenever I went back to it. So sorry about that, because it was all ramped up and ready to go. In any event, the Attorney General opens up with this. I especially want to thank our law enforcement partners like the National Sheriff's Association, the Fraternal Order of Police, the Major City Chiefs Association, and so many others from all over the country who are here, all big police organizations. Cops love civil asset forfeiture. They're really the only ones who really do. And do you know why they love it? Because civil asset forfeiture means they get to keep your shit. And they either get to, if it's cash, keep it and spend it on shit for themselves, or they get to sell your shit for cash and keep the cash to buy shit for themselves. So yeah, the cops are all big on civil asset forfeiture. And every time you talk to a cop or a senior police official and you say civil asset forfeiture is unconstitutional and should be banned, they always come at you with the, why do you love the terrorists? Why do you love the drug runners? Why do you hate America and freedom? Let me tell you something, ass. Taking stuff away from Americans, taking their property without due process, i.e. conviction of a crime, is not liberty. It's not freedom. It's tyranny. I've said before and I say it again, and today is a especially good day to say it. If George Washington were to magically appear at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning by noon, he would be up in the hills raising an army. But let's continue. He talks about civil asset forfeiture. He says civil asset forfeiture takes the material support of the criminals and instead makes it the material support of law enforcement. Well, I'll give him halvesies on that. It certainly makes it the material support of law enforcement. But civil asset forfeiture is taking shit from people who haven't been convicted of a crime. So they are not, in fact, criminals. You may think they're criminals. You may think they're suspicious looking, which is to say, black. But when you take their stuff without convicting them of a crime, you are taking away the material support of a citizen, not a criminal. You're not a criminal until you've been convicted. And so this idea that, oh, civil asset forfeiture takes money away from criminals. No, it doesn't. Let me tell you who it takes money away from. There was this Hispanic fella who was driving down the East Coast towards Florida because he needed to buy some palm trees, and he was going to transport these palm trees back up north. Well, he got stopped, and they found that he had $12,000 in cash on him. Well, a Hispanic fellow with $12,000 in cash, that's suspicious. That money, gone. Civil asset forfeiture. They took it. And by the way, when the feds take your money via civil asset forfeiture, you have to prove that you're not a criminal to get it back. That's right. You got to prove a negative. Good luck with that. He says, law-abiding people whose property is used without their knowledge or consent should not be punished because of crimes that others have committed. Well, you know, that's an interesting point. They shouldn't, but it's an interesting category of civil asset forfeiture cases. Friend borrows your car and sells drugs out of the trunk. It's not his car, but he gets caught with the drugs, so the cops get to keep your car. Or a family member gets busted for selling drugs out of the home. You get to lose your home. That's how civil asset forfeiture works. So may not be you that's the criminal, you the homeowner, you the vehicle owner. Does it matter? Nope. Because you loaned your car to somebody, or somebody who may be renting a room out of your house gets busted by the cops, you lose everything, and you didn't do anything. That's what civil asset forfeiture does. So it's an interesting subgenre, and it is possible to lose your property because of something somebody else did, even though you have committed no crime. The Attorney General goes on to say 4 out of 5 administrative civil asset forfeitures filed by federal law enforcement agencies were never challenged in court. Yeah, you know why? Because it's impossible to prove, number one, that you're innocent, that you didn't commit a crime. You're trying to prove a negative. And number two, even if you could prove it, do you know how much it costs to go into federal court and sue the United States government for your shit back? Let's say that you are this Hispanic gentleman with $12,000 in cash, and the feds come, they see your $12,000 in cash, they just assume you're a criminal because, after all, you have a lot of cash and you're a Hispanic fella. That screams cartel to me. So you lose your money. Well, how much is it going to cost you to get that $12,000 back? I suspect that it would probably cost you more than $12,000. It costs you less to let the government take your money than it does to try to get it back, because you don't get it back for free. So, next. And this is something I really liked. The department will adopt smaller seizures of cash between $5,000 and $10,000. Now take note, it used to be $10,000. In fact, go to a bank today with $10,001 in cash and deposit it in your account. They will report you to the feds immediately. And the feds can seize your assets because you had $10,000 in cash. That was $10,000. But yeah, now this says, again, the department will adopt smaller seizures of cash between $5,000 and $10,000 only if there exists some level of criminality or with the express concurrence of the U.S. Attorney's Office. Okay, well, that's a hole big enough to drive a truck through. Will only take between $5,000 and $10,000 if there is some level of criminality or if, a government lawyer says that we can take it. Okay, great. I feel like my civil liberties are being so well protected now. What was the other thing that I wanted to talk about here? Oh, yes. I'm asking all department attorneys to proceed with an abundance of caution when handling forfeitures involving vehicles and especially residences. Well, for a guy who was not known as a restrained prosecutor, this call for prosecutorial restraint is interesting. Oh, and guess what? By the way, prosecutors don't show any of it. They certainly haven't shown any of it with civil asset forfeiture in the past. They love to grab that stuff because they're partners with the cops too. The cops love civil asset forfeiture. Law enforcement in general does because they get to keep the stuff. So, today, Jeff Sessions says, with this new policy, the American people can be confident in knowing that we are taking action to defund criminals and at the same time protecting the rights of law-abiding criminals. Well, you're not defunding criminals with civil asset forfeiture. You're defunding people who haven't been convicted of a crime. But they love to throw that criminals thing in there. Oh, and by the way, the American people aren't confident about it. Getting rid of civil asset forfeiture was in the platforms of both the Democratic and Republican parties. Again, if this is something that people on both sides of the political aisle should be able to agree on, it's the idea that the government shouldn't be able to take your stuff without convicting you of a crime. And of course, there have been people on the left and right who've been yelling about it today. I saw today a tweet from Representative Justin Amash, who wrote, "Civil asset forfeiture is unjust and unconstitutional. It's a big government scheme to take people's property without due process. End it." Well, he is right. It is unconstitutional, and it is a big government scheme to take people's property without due process. Representative Amash, if only there was some cabal or collection or group of men and women who had the power to make a law that would end civil asset forfeiture. And if only you were a member of such a group, maybe something would happen. I can't imagine anybody who likes civil asset forfeiture but the police. This idea that if you don't support civil asset forfeiture, you're a friend of the terrorists or a friend of the drug dealers is just bullshit. This civil asset forfeiture thing is a problem. I don't like it. I'm against it. And frankly, you should be against it too. All right-thinking people should be against it, whether you're a raving SJW lefty or whether you're a staunch Constitution-loving conservative. This is not a good thing. But it's the thing we got now. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the issue. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later. So long.